Welcome back to my channel, Fazbear's Menagerie of Madness, where I'll explore the universe of Five Nights at Freddy's and I hope in a new and unique interpretation of events. In my last video, I spoke about Candy Cadet and the story of the young woman, keys and children, which I had explained as the story of Puppet and Charlotte. Since then I have come to the conclusion that between Candy Cadet's story and the urns from the Help Wanted 2 game, we now have the complete life of Puppet and Charlotte Emily. In this video, I'll explain how Charlotte's remorse and burden of responsibility for those victims of 1985 kept her around for decades until she could save them all. Candy Cadet's story contained within it two interesting points. The first, the young woman was told she could only save one. Secondly, that trying to save all five was, of course, not going to work. Very confident statements that led me to believe that Charlotte was given instructions from someone unknown to us. If we use the story alone together, then Charlotte could have been visited by a relative, another spirit that had moved on before her and was reaching out to help her. Instructions would be given to help another soul move on during their time of tragedy. Charlotte did not follow through with only saving one. She was determined to save all five. This was likely, as the Candy Cadet story goes, as the key she used to save one child could not be used on all. Spreading her attention across several children may have been the challenge that led to her failure, and because of this, Charlotte was forced to provide the heads of the animatronic as an alternative. When we skip forward to Help Wanted 2, the big discussion is about the lighting of urns. This has led to the interpretation that Charlotte was the last to die, although that's not my interpretation. The urns were used during the Princess Quest game to light the way and lead to the next room. The lights represent a beacon to follow. When the lights are lit, I think they represent the order of children's soul were released to move onto the spirit realm. In 1983, Charlotte and brother Sammy were playing in the costume change room out back of Fredbear's family diner. During a dinner service, Spring Bonnie would block the prize box that contained the puppet. This would allow Spring Bonnie to take Henry's daughter to the exit, leave her outside, and distract the guests as they ate. William would drive up, having known the time of the dinner service, and ended the life of Charlotte. Puppet would break out of the sealed box it was kept, and went to save Charlotte. Not being successful, Charlotte would exist in Puppet for decades to come. 2 years later, Puppet and Charlotte would have to face the events of 1985. That includes several children being singled out by Spring Bonnie and taken to the back room. The outcome would not end well for them. Spring Bonnie would vacate the premises through the ball pit to follow Oswald. William would have only moments before the police had arrived to move a child into hiding. Michael Brooks' disappearance would result in the Sheriff's Department attention falling onto the employee who wore the Spring Bonnie costume. William would avoid that suspicion. Following this event, the area of the restaurant was sealed off by the sheriff, where Puppet would emerge to help save the children. Charlotte's attempt to save all by using the gifts to direct their attention to remember would fail, and Charlotte is forced to deliver the heads of the animatronics. Charlotte's desperation to find a solution for all had doomed all to imprisonment. Puppet and Charlotte shared the desire to help others. Puppet was programmed to protect the children with a particular coloured wristband, while Charlotte now exists with the thoughts that she could have saved one. Now all were her responsibility. During the events of the story, You're the Band, Puppet is still active and returning the souls of the 1985 incident back to the restaurant. When Timothy starts to receive the memories of the one haunting the mask, Puppet must return the soul to the stage. It would be Mike Schmidt, I believe, to also help those affected by the previous owners of the restaurant. Mike protects Timothy from Puppet, while Puppet ensures the souls stay under her care. During the events of the fourth closet, the children's soul contained within Chica, Freddy, Foxy, and Bonnie would be the first to move onto the spirit realm. Once Carlton merges their memories together, the children are aware of William. Having thrown him into the furnace of Circus Baby's pizza, the souls had ended the threat from the one who protected Spring Bonnie. They had closure, and they would move on. Cassidy and Charlotte had stayed. While Cassidy still resided in the once Fredbear Springlock suit, the suit must have been delivered to the restaurant of Pizzeria Simulator. Charlotte would not be as easy to move on, so Henry would devise a plan to task Lefty with the mission to collect her. Using a special microphone to emit the lullaby that would put Charlotte to sleep, Lefty captured the puppet and delivered them to Henry.
My daughter, if you can hear me, I knew you would return as well. It's in your nature to protect the innocent. I'm sorry that on that day, the day you were shut out and left to die, no one was there to lift you up into their arms, the way you lifted others into yours. And then, what became of you? I should have known you wouldn't be content to disappear. Not my daughter. I couldn't save you then, so let me save you now. It's time to rest, for you and for those you have carried in your arms.
This was the moment Henry had decided for Charlotte to let her responsibilities go. Charlotte, although, is stubborn and could not. During the events of Ultimate Custom Night, Charlotte had survived inside of Lefty, and Cassidy had sought protection in the mediocre melodies. Charlotte would not hurt Michael Afton for being there as well, although she would threaten him.
I recognize you, but I'm not afraid of you. Not anymore. The others are under my protection. I don't hate you, but you need to stay out of my way.
Some years later, Cassidy would find herself as the sprite in the Princess Quest game. She would defend against any others who would seek to remove the piece of Springtrap from her digital world. In this game, Cassidy was in control. In Help Wanted 2, when Jeremy enters the digital world, he takes from her the sword. This was the means that Cassidy had kept the piece of Springtrap away from others. Without the sword to protect, Cassidy had served her purpose. I suspect that during this event, Cassidy let go and moved on. Once all the original 5 had moved on, Charlotte could rest. The only thing stopping her was Lefty. In my earlier video of Sun and Moon, I outlined my thoughts of Charlotte being Sun and Lefty being Moon. Moon had Sun in a perpetual loop of fear, as Charlotte's fear of sleep would now manifest itself into somnophobia. Charlotte was powerless to her fears and could not move on. When Cassie resets Eclipse during the Ruined DLC, Charlotte was finally free. Lefty was only a computer program, so needed the emotions of Charlotte to exist. Unless acted upon by Vanny, Moon would likely cease to exist once the power runs out. Thanks for staying with me till the end. To find out when new videos become available, subscribe for future content.